Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We'll start the webinar in a few minutes. Please wait. Good afternoon, everyone. We cordially welcome you to today's exclusive webinar. I, Riya Malhotra, extend my warmest regards to everyone who has joined us for today's live session on ZATCA E-invoicing Phase II, Compliance and Challenges. For over 2 decades, Webtel has been one of India's leading e-compliance solution provider, well known for its compliance management, office management, and HR management solutions. We believe in delivering our best to clients through our expertise and dedicated professionalism. We have incorporated a knowledge academy as well, where you can do all your learning by opting for self-paced courses, staying in line with the blogs, and keeping pace with the webinars. Despite having a long history of providing simplified solutions to help our clients and professional community facing compliance challenges, we dare ourselves constantly to anticipate, plan, and execute in order to simplify the ever-changing world of compliances. Our products and services have covered it all for your proficiencies in compliance, virtual, HRMS, SAP, company law, and outsourcing solutions. We have reached great heights in providing legal and regulatory compliance management solutions, even in the KSA as ZATCA approved vendor, and developed cloud-based e-invoicing solutions and integration with widely used ERPs like SAP, Oracle, Navision, etc. Today, we are presenting a webinar on ZATCA E-invoicing Phase II, Compliance and Challenges, presented by Mr. Rajiv Khandelwal. Mr. Rajiv Khandelwal is a fellow chartered accountant of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is also a DISA ICAI, a certified systems auditor. He is also an alumnus of Shriram College of Commerce. He has over 3 decades of experience in compliance sector. Mr. Khandelwal has addressed over 1,000 webinars and seminars so far on compliances at NASCOM Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Institute of Company Secretaries of India, Institute of Cost and Work Accountants of India, and various study circles. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any doubts during the webinar, please type them in the chat box. We will take the same at the end of the webinar. Now, without further delay, we will request Mr. Rajiv Khandelwal to take over. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ria. So today we have an interesting session ahead, and obviously phase 1 of the e-invoicing in KSA is already in vogue, and everybody, I'm sure, is compliant. And if you are not, you better watch out, because in due course the department will also be taking various surveys, etc., to know whether proper compliance is being done. Because in the first phase, you have to generate invoices in the specified format and keep with you only. You are not supposed to submit it to the department, to the Zatka, but they may be conducting surveys, etc., to understand whether proper compliance is being done or not. So that is very important. And now we are also, the second phase of e-invoicing in KSA is also staring us in the face, and it's only 4 months away. And obviously, as you are aware, it is being done in trenches or in waves. In the first wave, some specified taxpayers are being covered, about which we'll just now talk. So I'll just start with the presentation. So the basic question, whether if it's applicable to you, are you ready for it? Or even if it is not applicable, we should understand what are the requirements so that we can prepare ourselves. Because in due course, it is even the second phase is being will be made mandatory for other taxpayers also. So what all we will be covering: applicability of e-invoicing, requirements in phase 2, challenges in phase 2, mandatory fields, requisites of a good solution, steps in phase 2, e-invoicing solution, Webtel offering, penalties for e-invoice violations, and FAQs. We'll be covering, I'll try to cover all these. So when we talk about applicability of e-invoicing, I think you are aware that is applicable to all the taxable persons resident in the kingdom, irrespective of turnover. Whatever the turnover, however small or however large the turnover may be, invoicing is applicable to everybody. Even third parties that issue tax invoices on behalf of the resident taxable persons, invoicing is applicable to them also. So are there any exceptions where it is not applicable? Obviously, to non-resident taxpayers. So if I'm raising some invoice from India or some other country, in that case, invoicing of KSA is not applicable because it's applicable in my country. So I'll have to issue an e-invoice catering to Indian tax laws. But as per KSA, this requirement is not there. Then also type of invoices, if I talk about whether it is the simplified tax invoices or the tax invoices and their associated debit and credit notes, invoicing is applicable to all kinds of invoices. Then also the various types of sales, all taxable supplies, whether it is standard rate supplies or zero rated supplies, and also to all the taxable supplies, to whether to residents or to non-residents, that is exports. It's applicable in all the cases. So if you are exporting from KSA to another country, let's say India or some other country, in that case also e-invoicing is mandatory. So to which cases it is not applicable? There are a few cases like the exempt supplies. If you're making any exempt supplies, then invoicing is not applicable. Then also if you are importing goods, as I said, in that case, invoicing is not applicable. And also in the case of supplies which are subject to reverse charge mechanism or RCM. So in these three cases, invoicing is not applicable. And there has been a phased implementation, as you're aware. Phase 1 generation phase became applicable from 4th of December 2020 and for all the taxpayers. And now the second phase, as you're aware, is applicable from 1st of January 2023. And as you're aware, it is being implemented in waves by the target taxpayer groups. So if we are talking about taxpayers with revenue subject to VAT in 2021, if it is above 3 billion SAR, then e-invoicing phase 2 is applicable with effect from 1st January 2023. If it is your revenue in 2021 is less than this amount of 3 billion SAR, then phase 2 is not applicable to you as of now, but the dates will be announced in due course. So we must understand that for taxpayers with revenue up to 3 billion SAR in 2021, phase 1 compliance will continue beyond 31st December 2022 also. Since phase 2 is not applicable to them, phase 1 will continue to be applicable till such date when the new dates are announced for the next wave of taxpayers. Let us see the general requirements for the generation phase and now the integration phase. Generation phase is the first phase and integration phase is the second phase. So you are aware that in the first phase or the generation phase, invoice should contain additional fields such as the QR code, which is mandatory for simplified invoices, generation of invoices in an electronic format, and storage of the invoices in an electronic format. These were the general requirements. Let's see if there's any change in the integration phase. Now the e-invoice will contain additional fields such as cryptographic stamp, etc., or other fields also. I'll just tell you about those. Generation of e-invoice in XML format. Just the electronic format is not sufficient, which is there in the first phase. In the second phase, the integration phase, because this is to be the integration is to be done with the Zatka system. So generation of e-invoice in XML format, because Zatka will take the e-invoices in XML format. And then upload of invoices at the Zatka portal. For tax invoices, it will be a clearance model. For simplified tax invoices, it will be a reporting model. What will be the technical requirements? Let us see. Connectivity of internet will be required in both the phases. I'm not sure whether you are aware or not. Even in the first phase, you are required to be connected to the internet. That is a requirement. And in the integration phase, also it is required. Integration is required, obviously. Beyond connectivity, even the integration is required so that you are able to submit invoices on real-time basis and receive a response from Zatka. So for that, internet is required. In the first phase, I'm not sure why they want it, but it is a requirement. So solution for generating and storing invoices must be able to have internet connected for both the phases. So for all taxpayers, connection to internet is necessary even in the phase 1. And obviously in the second phase, it will be required because invoices will have to be uploaded at the Zatka portal. Other technical requirements, let us see. QR code, which was mandatory only for simplified invoices in the first phase, will become mandatory for all the invoices in the second phase. Then a few more additional requirements like cryptographic stamp, hash, UUID, etc. Temper resistance counter. All these things are additional requirements in the second phase. And like the cryptographic stamp will be applied by Zatka on clearance. Then other things will be hash, UUID. These are technical terms. I'll try to explain them in just briefly so that you understand what basically they mean. And obviously the invoices are to be stored in any electronic format in the phase one. In the second phase, it has to be in XML or PDF A3 with embedded XML. QR code. Now the QR code, you are aware in the first phase is mandatory for simplified tax invoices, and it is applicable from 4th December 2021, the date of the first phase when it began. And irrespective of the turnover, all the taxpayers are required to comply with this requirement, wherein the invoice, simplified tax invoice, should have containing all these things. That is the seller's name, VAT number of the seller, timestamp of invoice, that is date and time, invoice total with VAT, and the VAT total. All these things are required for all the taxpayers with effect from 4th December 2021. If some of you are not following it, please immediately follow it, because there are penalties for not following this. Then coming to other requirements that I just talked about, hash of XML invoice, the digital signature, public key, etc. They are not applicable for the for taxpayers having a revenue of 3 billion up to 3 billion SAR as of now, and that is not applicable. But for those who have revenue above 3 billion SAR, this requirement of additional requirement of hash and digital signature, etc., which I'll just talk in briefly, that will be applicable from 1st January 2023. That is when the second phase begins. Again, if you want to understand, this is the TLV format of the QR code, tag linked value format. Again, I don't want to take you too much detail, so I'll just skip this. And this has to be proper. The QR code should be properly, many of you may be having QR code on the invoice, but it may not be correct, because by the naked eye, you cannot see whether this is correct or not. So you must take the help of some professionals like that of Webtel, so that we can help you, we can guide you whether the QR code is proper or not. If your QR code takes you to a hyperlink to a website, that's not correct. If it is showing you data in text format, if you scan it using the normal scanner, this is not correct. If it takes you to a hyperlink to an online invoice, it is not correct. Similarly, if it shows some random or empty values, it is still not correct. So what is the correct one? Let me tell you. The correct representation should be, you should use the Fatura QR code scanner or other QR code scanners. One of the QR code scanner Webtel has also provided, which is available on the Play Store, and you can use it to scan the invoices. And when you scan the invoice, something like this will appear, and also the scan data will be available, like the name, VAT number, invoice date, invoice value, and the total VAT value. All these. So correct QR code is also necessary. Just by the naked eye, you may be able to see just these value, this QR code, something like this, but it may not be correct. So please ensure that this is correct. Then talking about some technical terms like the cryptographic stamp, which is mandatory in the case of the second phase. It is basically a digital signature of hash of the document. The whole document is being jumbled. The data of the document is jumbled, and a digital signature of that is being made. This ensures that the content is the same. There is no alteration in the content, which is very important. Invoice data, it is so very important. It also ensures that the e-invoice is created by the specified sender, and it ensures compliance with the e-invoice provisions. So that is the cryptographic stamp. Other than that, we have one unique ID or UUID, which is a 128-bit number generated by an algorithm of the computer. It ensures that the same identifier is not generated by someone else. Each invoice will have a separate UUID number. It cannot be same for the same taxpayer or for different taxpayers. And also a hash value will be there, which is a digital fingerprint of the invoice data. It is obtained using a standardized hashing algorithm, and it verifies that invoice data has not been altered. Just briefly, and just if somebody asks you UUID or hash or all these terms, just briefly, I'm trying to make you understand. Otherwise, this is not required. These technical things you may not understand. We will talk about practical things which are more important. But these at the same time are mandatory, and Webtel will ensure that if you are getting the integration done through Webtel, we will ensure all these things happen properly. So it should be used by a compliant invoice solution and stored in the invoice XML. These UUID hash etc. should be there in the invoice XML. It is not required on a physical invoice. So if you see the physical invoice, it will more or less be the same as it's now. These things, the UUID, the hash, etc., will not, sorry, not be visible on the physical invoice. And taxpayer need not be aware of these values during the normal invoice issuing process. Too much technical things? Okay, now let us try to understand things in a more simple way. So in the phase 2, you should ensure that you are connected to the internet, and you should ensure that e-invoices contain additional fields as required, UUID, etc., that I just now talked about. And you should be able, or the solution should be able to generate and store e-invoice in the required format, which is XML or PDF A3 with embedded XML. And it should be integrated with the e-invoicing solution with Zatka to share e-invoices. You should ensure all these things. Let us see the sample of a tax invoice. You must be aware of, about the format of the tax invoice. Basically, all these fields are there: the seller information, the buyer information, the additional seller ID, date and time of issue, invoice type, invoice reference number, taxable amount, subtotal, including VAT, etc., etc. All these are the fields. What additional fields are required in the integration phase? Let's see. The invoice format should be proper. All the required fields, the necessary, the additional fields should also be there, and the normal fields also already, which are there in the first phase or even in the VAT regime, they have to be there. And some additional fields have to be there. Then it has to be, the format should be PDF or A3 with embedded XML, and additional visible fields must also be included. On the physical invoice also, some additional fields should be there, and some fields like the CCI, the unique ID, etc., they should be there, or the cryptographic stamp should be there on the XML format. Let us see what is the model. In the first phase, it was the invoice generation model. That is, the person or the taxpayer generates the invoice. He shares the invoice with the buyer and stores invoice in the electronic format. That is the phase 1. And in the second phase, which is the integration phase, it is a clearance model in which, first of all, the taxpayer generates invoice, then he shares it to the platform, the Zatka platform. The Zatka clears this invoice. Then the person shares this invoice to the buyer, and then the buyer is able to verify this invoice using the QR code scanner. And please remember, very important, in the case of tax invoice, the seller should share the invoice information with Zatka for validation first. Then only it can share the invoice with the buyer. It cannot be the other way around, that you share the invoice with the buyer and then upload it at the Zatka portal. That will be wrong. That will be incorrect. Zatka may take some action against you, or it may be treated as a violation. So please ensure that first you, in the case of, I'm talking about tax invoice. So you have to upload the tax invoice data first at the Zatka portal. The Zatka portal or the platform will validate it. It will tell you whether it is correct or not, send you back the data. And once you get it back and it is validated by Zatka, then only you can share it with your buyers. So if you want to know in detail, first of all, the invoice is shared by the seller's solution at the Zatka platform. Zatka returns back the cleared invoice with a QR code and the Zatka stamp. And then the seller to store the cleared invoice in XML or PDF A3 with embedded XML. He will share this with the XML, physical invoice also. And if he wants, even in the electronic format, he can share it with the buyer, and buyer can scan it with using the QR code. So that will be the normal process in the case of a tax invoice. In the case of a simplified invoice, in the generation phase, it was same for whether for the tax invoice or the simplified tax invoice. But in the integration phase, this data will have to be uploaded at the portal. But the change is that you can share it with the buyer first, because people may be coming on your store or some shop, etc. And you cannot say that come later on, first I'll upload it to the Zatka portal. So it allows you, you can do it in advance also, if because it happens in a fraction of a second. So even in the case of the simplified invoice, if you uploaded the portal first and then give it to the client, no issue, because you are being compliant. But if there's an issue or some time lag is there, then Zatka gives you time that you can give the invoice to the buyer, and you have 24 hours time to upload these invoices at the Zatka portal. And it is the reporting model. It is not the acceptance model or the clearance model. Clearance model is in the case of tax invoice. Zatka will clear the invoice, then only you can give it to the buyer. In the case of the simplified tax invoice, it is the reporting model. You are just reporting the invoice data to Zatka so that it can see if there's any problems, issues, or some mistakes are there. It will point out to you later on. So what is not allowed in the generation phase? I think you are aware, you are already into the generation phase. A few months already have passed. Allowing uncontrolled access, tampering of invoice or the associated notes or logs, allowing multiple invoice series. All these things will continue to be disallowed in the second phase or the integration phase also. None of these things will be allowed even in the integration phase. And also the new things will come. Allowing export of cryptographic stamping key, that will not be allowed. Allowing software time changes will not be allowed, or modification of timestamp value during issue of invoice, even that will not be allowed. Let us see just in some detail what these things means. Uncontrolled access means anonymous access. Anybody is able to access the e-invoicing solution, or ability to operate with a default password. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or these kind of passwords. Generally, people please do not keep those because they are not secure. Absence of user session management. If there's any problem, then you are not able to know which user logged into the system and accessed it. So that should not be there. Tampering of invoices, that is allowing alteration or deletion of invoices, that is not allowed. Allowing for log modification or deletion generated with inaccurate timestamps, non-sequential log generation, electronic invoice counter reset. All these things are being considered as tampering of invoice, and that is not allowed. E-invoicing compliance audit. Many of you may be quite happy that in the first phase, nobody's asking you what you are doing, and some of you maybe not be able to comply with even the phase 1 requirements, that is the electronic invoice, etc., storage of etc., because nobody is coming to you. But let me tell you that Zatka is conducting various audits, and taxpayers may be subject to these audits from time to time. So please ensure that you are compliant. And in that case, if they come to you, you provide all the required data to enable them to check the various compliances and provide them with archived invoice and associated note files. So these things in electronic format, all the invoices and all the debit and credit notes, they should be there in your system in electronic format. Otherwise, there may be a problem. So what are the challenges in invoicing phase 2? Let us see. First of all, there are data dictionary and there are various technical documents that the Zatka has provided. And on the basis of that, we have designed the software, Webtel software, and great details. We had to study that and ensure that you are compliant. And just briefly, I'd like to talk about a few things. Like there are various kinds of fields in the invoice. Some are mandatory fields, some are conditional fields, some are optional fields. Mandatory fields must be there in the invoice. Conditional fields are based on some condition. Like if you are a registered VAT person, taxpayer, in that case, the VAT number must be there. Then there are some optional fields like the phone number, etc., of the buyer or the seller. These are optional fields. So this division of fields into mandatory, conditional, and optional fields is there. Let us see what are the mandatory fields in a tax invoice. Let us see, and which is to be printed on the tax invoice. First of all, the invoice identifiers. And in the second column, you can see the requirement to print in Arabic. That is there. And it is we have summarized it for you, whether it is optional or it is mandatory. We have told you about that. And the sample of that particular field, whether it is invoice number, date, etc., that is in the third column, which is the example. So you can see the invoice number, the sample data, you can see invoice number should be something like this, or it may be different formats for different people. Invoice issue date should be there, and invoice type, tax invoice should be there. Invoice type, transactions, it may be third party. All these things should be there. The invoice identifiers. In the seller details, all these things should be there. And the requirement to print in Arabic, the seller name should be there. VAT number, it is optional because it can be in the Roman numerals or in Arabic. Then seller address line 1 is mandatory. City, town, etc. is mandatory. All these things should be there. Please ensure that this is there in the printed invoice. In the electronic invoice or the XML format, there may be more requirements, which we will take care of. In the buyer details, I'm showing you example in the third column, and whether it is mandatory or optional to print in Arabic in the print document, that is being told in this column. And many things we will even have to change. As of now, the complete address may not be there in the tax invoice, but that is mandatory now. Like the building number, you may not be capturing the building number of the buyer in the address field in your ERP or the accounting package that you are using, but now that is mandatory. You must capture. So please ensure that this is done. Otherwise, there may be a problem. The building number is a mandatory field and it must contain minimum 4 digits. Other mandatory information, the postal code, it must contain the 5 digits. City, town, or village of the buyer, district of the buyer, all these are required. So please ensure that you're capturing the full address of not only the seller, but even the buyer. Then the item details, these are the mandatory fields, and the requirement to print in Arabic is there. Of some fields is mandatory, some are optional. Then the VAT category code must contain one of the values, that is S, O, Z, or E. S is the standard rate, that is the 15%. O is services outside the scope of tax or not subject to VAT. Z is zero rate of tax will apply to that, and E is exempt from tax. Then more item details, these are there. I'm sure you are taking care of these. You are preparing yourselves for the second phase, particularly to the taxpayers to whom this is applicable from 1st January 2023, and even to others. I would request even others, if your revenue is below the threshold of 3 billion SAR, you start preparing right away, because these things take time. Systems changes have to be made in the ERP system or the accounting package that you are using, and please ensure that your provider is providing you all these things. Otherwise, at the appropriate time, there may be a problem. So I'll just skip the mandatory fields. We've seen a lot of them. Now, what are the implications? A lot of validations are there in the various fields. Not only it is specified that this field is mandatory or this is optional, but there are various validations also that this field must be of these many characters. This must be a numeric field. This must be an alphanumeric field. All these things you have to ensure, or we as providers of the software, we will ensure. And all these things will have a huge impact on the business operations and the IT infrastructure. As you're aware, only very brief information used to go in the VAT return. But now when you are uploading the invoice, the complete data of the invoice, every full stop, comma, even that is going in the e-invoice. Complete e-invoice is being uploaded at the Zatka portal. And field level validations are there in the e-invoice. If in between, if there are any queries, you can ask those queries in the chat box. I'll try to take them in between, or even if time permits, we'll take those queries at the end. Let me see, there are some queries I can see. Invoices belonging to intercompany sales, is invoicing applicable? Yes, it is applicable to that also, because that is also an invoice. All kinds of invoices, all kinds of debit notes, credit notes, invoicing is applicable. Can we have e-invoice solution for two different ERPs from single company? We have different ERP for different projects. Yes, Webtel is providing integration for various ERPs like SAP, Navision, even accounting softwares like Tally. So Oracle, that should not be a problem. And we can do that definitely. Who will be generating the QR code? In the first phase, QR code, the taxpayer has to generate, because it is nothing to do with the Zatka portal. In the first phase, you have to generate as the taxpayer. So your solution should be able to generate the QR code. In the second phase, QR code will be generated by Zatka. Yes, it should be part of the original invoice. Yeah, original invoice. What do you mean by original invoice? Original invoice, the one which you will share with the buyer, will be the one only which has been cleared by Zatka. And obviously, in the second case, since you are sharing, in the case of simplified tax invoice, you have to generate it, the QR code, because you are submitting it to the buyer even before submitting it to the Zatka portal. As a buyer, is there any requirement to maintain the e-invoice coming from local supplier? That is, I think you are buying material from others, and is there any requirement to maintain e-invoice? There is no requirement as such. You can even have physical invoices, but again, even these invoices, the invoices which you are buying from others, so you can keep them in the electronic format or the physical format also, no issues. There is no requirement as such. UUID, the unique ID, as I told you, will be generated by the Zatka portal. Though I'll be taking it up later on, but since there are questions, I'll try to answer them right away. Whether now the question arises, which invoice you will be giving to the buyer, whether it will be the normal invoice in the physical format or the electronic or the PDF format that we are used to, whether that will be proper, or a physical invoice will be, or invoice generated by Zatka and cleared by Zatka, that will be sufficient. So a physical invoice or a PDF invoice that you are used to, you must provide that to the buyer. Additionally, if both of you are okay, then you can also provide it in the XML format, which has been cleared by Zatka. So the physical invoice or the PDF invoice is a requirement. And other than that, even additionally, you can provide in the XML format also. So those were the queries. Continue to write in the queries so that I can answer those. And even if some queries remain unanswered, we'll try to reach you out on your email IDs to reply to those. Coming to the invoice solutions, you have to understand whether the ERP or the accounting package that you are using is ready with the necessary changes well in time, whether it is already ready or whether it will be ready well in time. If it is 1st of January 2023 and your ERP or the accounting package is still not ready, what will you do? And Zatka will, I'm sure Zatka will not take that as an answer that my ERP was not ready. That is why I'm not able to comply with the phase 2. Zatka will not listen to you. So you must ensure that you are compliant. And even if the package that you are using, the ERP that you are using, it is compliant, just try to find out what is the cost, time, and effort of updation. It may be providing you an update, but it may be charging you a lot of money. So that is also, it should be affordable also. And here we will step in. That is, you have to check out whether there are other integration solutions available. So obviously Webtel is there, and Webtel is providing integration facilities for various ERPs like SAP, Oracle, Navision, and even accounting packages like Tally. So integration facilities are being available, and these are available at a fraction of the cost, at particularly in the case of ERPs where what they are charging. Then various other challenges you may face, or even in the first phase you may be changing. What if the customer asks for a tax invoice? Because generally it is a simplified tax invoice in the case of POS. But if the customer asks for tax invoice, whether the system will be ready for it, it should not increase the customer waiting time. Otherwise, he will get irritated. It should be able to generate the proper QR code, not just something which looks like a QR code, but actually which is a QR code when properly scanned shows you the necessary data. It should be something like that. Then the reconciliation challenges. As of now, you may not understand that, but in India, we are aware of this because a few years a lot of reconciliation challenges are there, and even you will face these in due course, because the data in the ERP, the data which is uploaded to the Zatka portal, and the data which you are giving in the VAT return all should match. If there are issues, then the reconciliation will be an issue, and we are providing all these reconciliation facilities also, so that you do not face these problems. And in many cases, I have been told that there are multiple invoice generation systems, which will further complicate the matters. So even this reconciliation is going to be a big challenge, particularly in the cases where the number of invoices is large. And presently, even in the VAT regime, you are aware that we could modify invoices, cancel invoices, or delete invoices, and change the invoices and give the changed invoice to the party. But that's now history. Now you will have to issue a credit note or debit note for any modification, cancellation, or deletion. You cannot just change it by yourself. Month-end entries, closing entries. In the earlier regime, you were able to do backdated entries with VAT. Passed after the month-end to meet particularly the sales people, they have the sales targets, and they request the accounts people, please give us 2 or 3 days or 5 days or 1 week, so that we can show these current month sales in the previous month. So they were doing that, but that will not be possible, particularly in the second phase, because there will be real-time reporting of all the tax invoices and reporting within 24 hours of the simplified tax invoices. To a great extent, even this will have to change. So please guide your people accordingly. Then whether for advance payments or deemed supplies, you're aware that in the invoicing regime, a separate invoice will have to be generated. Then industry-specific challenges may be there, like in the case of FMCG companies. These people send a lot of material in the transport buses or trucks like these, and so at the point of sending, at the point of dispatch, it is not known how much the particular shop will buy. When you go to this shop, then he will say, I need these many Pepsis, these many 7-Ups, these many Lay's chips, etc. And you cannot issue the will have to be generated once the sale is being made. So that will be a challenge, whether your system or the ERP will be able to do that. So that will be a problem. Then in the case of EPC companies or road construction companies, etc., you might be aware that there is cumulative e-invoicing till last month and the current month, and then the total. All these facilities will not be there in the e-invoice. So again, that will be a challenge. So the total amount will be there, whether that will have to, all these things will have to be shown as an annexure. So these are the industry specific challenges. So by virtue of all these issues, if you are not ready on the 1st of January 2023, or for taxpayers which are below this threshold, to whom the other waves will apply, and this phase 2 will be applicable at a later date, please start preparing yourselves now. Otherwise, you may not be ready. Requisites of a good solution. Now you must be looking around for a good solution which can help you do your work, particularly in the second phase, because first phase I think is already through, and you must be complying with the first phase. If not, it is high time you do that now. Otherwise, you may get into problems. It should be capable of real-time upload of invoices and getting back validated invoices from Zatka in real time. Experience of integration with APIs, our application programming interface should be there with the service provider. It should be capable of managing large volumes. It should not be able to, that if the number of invoices is very huge, it becomes very slow, and all those kind of things should not be there. Then real-time upload of simplified tax invoices is also recommended after validation, even though it is not mandatory. Because if the invoice goes to the buyer and then there is a problem, you are making changes, which is not allowed. All those issues should be there. So ideally, you should be uploading even the simplified tax invoices also, even before giving to the buyer. The solution should be scalable, flexible, and user-friendly. Not very complicated, and it should be able to give you prompt updates of the changes, etc. And if new requirements or different requirements or changes are being brought about by Zatka, then it should be able to give very prompt updates of the same. So look for available solutions, take demos, weigh pros and cons, and take a quick decision. Involve both the IT and the domain teams, of cheap is not always the best. Don't go for the cheapest solution. See what the features it is offering, and go for a solution which is good for both the phases. Take into account data security concerns. On-premise solution suits large corporates due to criticality of data, and cloud solutions are suitable for small taxpayers who need anytime, anywhere access. So we will be doing the integration with both your ERP as well as with Zatka. So what all is to be done? Conversion of invoice data in XML format, upload of invoice data at the Zatka portal, download of e-invoice duly approved by Zatka, saving QR code, etc. in the ERP, generation of QR code of invoice with the QR code, and printing of PDF or the paper invoice. And also the various requirements are there of Zatka, like the resolution requirements document. If those of you who've seen it, we have the e-invoicing resolution, XML implementation, data dictionary, API specification, Swagger files, which are also called Swagger files. So I did not know even files have a swag, not only just some people, even files have swag. And also the various testing and validation tools like the compliance and enablement toolbox, integration sandbox, then additional supporting material, which is like the QR code development guide, etc., etc. So all these documents are there, which you should be compliant with. Then the list of APIs or the application programming interface, these are there. The list of APIs, etc. A long list is there, which you should be compliant with, and you should be able to use. So what are the steps in e-invoicing? Let me just summarize. Compliance and enablement toolbox. This is optional. This is to test the compliance of e-invoice, credit, debit notes, XML files. Then the second step is also optional, which is the integration sandbox, which is to test the integration of own system with Zatka's integration sandbox. Third stage is the mandatory step, which is the onboarding process. All the taxpayers to whom the second phase will be applicable will have to onboard on the Zatka and register e-invoice registration solution with Zatka. And then the fourth step is also mandatory, which is the core e-invoicing solution, through which you will be able to send e-invoices, credit, debit notes to Zatka for clearance or reporting. Either you have to understand all that I just now talked about, the APIs, the compliance and enablement toolbox, integration sandbox, onboarding process, core invoicing solution. Either if you understand all these things, good enough, go ahead. I wish you all the best of luck. Otherwise, you outsource it to somebody like Webtel, who is able to, which is an expert even in India. We have done it, invoicing, e-waybill, and GST compliances for a huge lot of corporates all over the country. Either you outsource it to us, so that because we are the experts, or the other option is you can understand all these data dictionary, all these terms, technical terms, etc. And choice is yours. At Webtel, we have both kinds of solutions. One is the on-premise solution, and the other is the SaaS model or the cloud-based solution. Both the solutions are available. Technical diagrams I'll just rush through because we have little time, and after that I'll take some FAQs and also questions from you. There are various options which we will offer the solution with. One is the on-premise solution. First option is with the APIs. The second is with the staging tables, wherein the integration will be done with your ERP. And here will be, the first case will be, you'll be using the APIs. In the second case, where you are not able to provide APIs, in that case, we'll be using the staging tables for e-invoicing. The third option, another option will be through FTP, of File Transfer Protocol. As time is just little, so I'll not get into too much technical details. And obviously, if you're interested in the solution, then we'll be talking to your IT guys and explain how the system will work. They'll be in a better position to understand this. The fourth option is the FTP with the MIT, or the mapping tool, through which the templates will be there, and the mapping will be done of the data in your system with the template. And then the reconciliation engine will also provide that, so that all these invoices which are there in your ERP system, which you have uploaded at the Zatka, because it's not necessary that they'll match automatically. In fact, they won't match automatically, because you may have uploaded an invoice, it may not have reached there, but it is there in the system. In the system, maybe multiple invoices are being generated, but here in the invoice, there may be 100 invoices in the ERP, but uploaded maybe 95 or 96 or 97 or 99. And the ones which have been issued to the parties, they may be again a different number, 98. So a reconciliation will have to be done. So was some invoice cancelled? But it is not allowed. You must have been issued a debit or credit note. Cancellation of the invoice is no longer allowed. All these things you have to be careful. So Webtel rule I've already told you about. And obviously Webtel is a registered e-invoice service provider, registered at the Zatka portal. Briefly, I'll show you how the web-based version looks like. Here you can, first of all, create masters, or even use Excel templates for creating the masters. And here, as you can see, the data is in English and Arabic as well, which is the requirement. And you can generate the invoice by keying in the data or importing the data here. And then XML will be generated containing the hash function, and PDF template can be customized according to the client. The physical invoice or the PDF invoice that you want to give to the client, that can be customized as your requirement. Then even invoice violations, if the violations are there, what will happen? Let us see. And what kind of violations can be there? Not issuing and saving invoices and notes electronically. Non-compliance with keeping e-invoices in electronic notes according to the specified format. Failure to inform the authority of any malfunctions that hinder the process of issuing invoices in electronic notes. Not including QR code in e-invoice. In the first phase, it is mandatory only for the simplified tax invoices. In the second phase onwards, it is applicable to all the invoices in the debit and credit notes. Then including any of the prohibited functions in the e-invoicing system used to issue and save invoices electronically. Deleting, editing, or adjusting the invoices or the debit and credit notes after issuance. That's not allowed. So what are the penalties for violation of these e-invoice regulations or requirements? In the first violation, the department will send you a notice. When it comes to the notice, they will send you a notice. In the second instance, or the second violation, a penalty of 1,000 SAR will be levied. In the third instance, it will be 5,000 SAR. In the fourth instance, it will be 10,000 SAR. And from fifth violation onwards, it will be a huge 40,000 SAR for each violation. I'm sure none of you will like to violate the laws of the land, and there may be other implications also. And also the person who is claiming the tax credit of the invoice which you're issuing, there may be issues with that also. So even not only you'll be doing non-compliance with the government requirements, but also you'll be creating problems for the buyer. So I'm sure none of you will like to do that. All big corporates, or even for small businesses, that will not be something which you will do intentionally. Now coming to a few FAQs which I've compiled for you. After that, I'll be taking your questions also. So first question is that, is there any data residency or data center legal requirements? So the answer to that is, in accordance with Article 66 of the VAT implementing regulations, in case a cloud invoicing solution or the cloud data center is located outside the kingdom, like if it is in India or China or some other country, then extension or access to data must be available in the branch that is located in the kingdom in KSA, and it should allow access to all related records. So even if it is outside India, it must be available in some branch in the KSA also. Additionally, other requirements of the other laws also, like the National Cybersecurity Authority or the National Data Management Office published laws, also have to be complied with. The next question is, does my e-invoicing solution need to be cloud-based to be able to implement e-invoicing? That's not correct. It may be on-premise solution or it may be cloud-based. Zatka has no issue with either of the two. I've answered that already, but if some of you have joined late or it's important, I'll reiterate that. How can I share my invoice with the buyer or the customer? You have to provide a printed copy of the tax of the simplified tax invoice or the related note which has been generated electronically to the customer. And if both agree, then even an electronic copy of the same may be provided to the customer. How can a taxpayer verify that the e-invoicing solution has been successfully integrated? For that, you have to do the onboarding process, complete the onboarding process at the Zatka portal. And after that, the taxpayer will be notified indicating whether the e-invoicing solution has been successfully integrated. Zatka will tell you about that. And also taxpayers can use the Futura portal in order to view a summary list of all the integrated e-invoicing solutions. Then the question is, should a taxpayer share e-invoices with Zatka before or after sharing with the buyer? Again, an important question. For tax invoices, first I'm talking about the phase 2 now. For the tax invoices, you have to share the e-invoice, that tax invoice with Zatka for clearance first. It clarifies the invoice, it clears the invoice, it approves the invoice. Thereafter, you have to share it with the buyer. You cannot share it with the buyer before uploading an approval from Zatka. Please remember. In the case of simplified tax invoices, you can share it with the buyer, and then you have 24 hours to submit it at the Zatka portal, because this invoice, the simplified tax invoices, is to be reported to the Zatka portal, and it is not to be submitted for clearance like in the case of a tax invoice. We have this portal of Webtel, wherein www.webtel.in, and there is a link for Webtel e-invoicing in KSA also, in which we keep on updating the various important facts or the changes, which you can see there. You can log into this website, and this will definitely help you in your compliances. And finally, I'd like to request you to act now, because time is short, and there may not be so much time that you think, because even for the first phase, the first wave of the taxpayers to whom this is applicable from the 1st of January 2023, it is just barely 4 months. And let me tell you, for big corporates, 4 months is not a big time, because so many things have to be done. And once you do it, then only you'll be able to aware of that. And so please do that now. And even for others, I'm talking to the CFOs, the other people, the responsible people in big corporates, and I'm also requesting the chartered accounting, etc., or the people who are in charge of e-invoicing in the respective companies. Please do that now and start preparation right now, even if this will be phase 2 will be applicable to you later on, because it takes a lot of time. So please start doing that right away. So with that, I'm ending this session, and you can see the numbers, mobile numbers, and the email ID at the screen, which if you wish to get more clarifications, if you want to go for integration, if you want to understand how Webtel will be doing integration with your ERPs, you're most welcome to call at these numbers, this mobile number or the email ID that is provided on the screen, and definitely we'll love to help you. And it is now time for me to take the other queries which were there. Let me see if there are any more queries. Checking these queries. See, there are many queries, specific queries, which for the paucity of time, I'll not be able to cover all these queries, because, but as a solution provider, as a knowledge partner, when we look into your systems, and let me tell you, there are lot more things that you think are there. Even when we see requirements, whether you are fulfilling the requirements, even for the VAT regime, let's keep aside the e-invoice thing. Even if for the VAT regime, when we see the invoices of even big corporates, in many times we see that there are compliance issues. The invoices are not even VAT compliant, what to say of e-invoice. So there are many things, and we as experts on this subject and experts in invoicing can definitely guide you. The sequence numbers, again, that is a problem that has been explained by Zatka also in the FAQs, that you can for different branches, etc., you can have different series that is allowed. Then industry specific cases you are talking about. Johan is asking whether Webtel is familiar with integration to hotel softwares. The solution that we are providing is not specific to any particular industry. We are providing solutions which are specific to the particular ERPs like SAP, or HANA or Navision, or even if you are asking about the hotel software, we can help you out in that also. Just give your contact details on the whatever queries you are having. A person will get in touch with you. Just email the queries or get in touch at the mobile numbers. We are submitting e-invoice with goods delivery. Fine. But in the Vinodji, when we go to the second phase of e-invoicing, in that case, first invoice will have to be uploaded at the Zatka portal. Zatka will approve that. Thereafter, only you can make the dispatch of the goods with that invoice. You cannot make the dispatch of the goods first and then upload it the portal. That will be non-compliance. It is as if you are sending the material or dispatching the material without a proper invoice. Mohammed Elabed is asking what preparation should be done by the client besides checking the invoice fields. I've told you many things, and a lot many things I've not been able to tell you because time is so short. So please get in touch with the team if you want to know in detail what all requirements are there, what all things have to be done. Nizar Ahmed is asking, does Webtel have an on-premise solution? Definitely we have an on-premise solution also, and also cloud-based solutions. We have both the solutions available with us. And already we have done, I'm happy to inform you that we have already done integration, and we have made many of our clients already compliant for the second phase. It's still 4 months away, but and now the testing, etc., which is required by Zatka at the portal, that is being done. But we have made them almost 80, 85%, 90% already compliant. The rest of things are being tested at the sandbox, or because there's a testing phase which Zatka is allowing us to do. So all that testing is being done, and well in time they will be compliant. So guys, any more questions? And as you can see, the QR code is there on the screen also. You can scan this QR code, or the numbers are given on the screen. You can take an alternative mobile number also, and you can get in touch with us. We'll definitely like to help you. Whatever your queries are there, it may be subject related, it may be knowledge related, or it may be related to the integration with your ERPs. So a few minutes before we close it in the session, if any more queries are there, do let me know.
I think we have covered most of the doubts so far. So thank you all for taking the time to be here today. I would especially like to thank our speaker, Mr. Rajiv Khandelwal, for such an insightful session. If you have joined late or missed any important information, you can watch the repeat of the session on our YouTube channel and even check out our previously conducted webinars. For any doubts and queries, please scan this QR to get them clarified, or drop us a mail on contactus@webtel.co.in. The email address has been mentioned on the slide. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.